Judith, where is our host?
A very good morning to you all and a warm welcome to this edition of Views, People and News here on KFM. My name is Judith Atim. And it's a pleasure to have you join us. And if you've just tuned in, if you want to follow us, to watch the discussion, you can tune in on our audiovisual platform, www.kfm.co.ug. Today we are talking about internal political party processes and the impact on the 2026 election strategy. And with me in the studio right now, I have Mr. Henry Muguzi, the Executive Director, Alliance for Finance Monitoring. Good morning, Henry.
Good morning, Judith, and good morning, listeners. Quite a pleasure to be here.
Good to have you. I also have with me Counsel George Musisi, partner Pace Advocates, is also a lawyer for the National Unity Platform Party, aspiring MP as well, Kera Municipality. Good morning, George.
Good morning, listeners. Good morning, Judith, and always a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. And I'll introduce my other guest as soon as he walks in the studio here. So, gentlemen, as usual, we'll start by taking a quick look at the big stories of the week, and I'll give you a moment to pick any of them randomly and just share your quick reflections on those. So, of course, the biggest story, as you all know, is what happened on Thursday when the world welcomed a new pope. Cardinal then, Robert Francis Prevost, was elected as the 267th Pope of the Catholic Church, and he took the name Pope Leo XIV. Pope Leo XIV, aged 69, hails from America, and he celebrated his first Mass as the Roman Pontiff in the Sistine Chapel with the College of Cardinals on Friday, yesterday. Back at home, the NRM on Tuesday conducted its village-level elections for the party's flag bearer for LC1 chairmanship, expected next year, and election of the NRM village structure leadership. Although in some areas the exercise was marred by violence and disruptions leading to delays and postponement, the process is being looked at as one that is aimed at strengthening the party's grassroots structures and affirming the democratic process within the ruling party. And on Wednesday, the Forum for Democratic Change officially kicked off its internal electoral process for the 2026 presidential elections, with the party president, Patrick Amuri Atoboy, and Secretary General Nathan Andala Mafabi getting nominated to contest for the party flag bearer. 6 aspirants had picked nomination forms in the campaign set to climax in July during the much-anticipated National Delegates Conference, but only 2 went through the process. And in the Democratic Party, 4 candidates have expressed interest in vying for the party's presidency in the upcoming internal elections due May 30th in Mbarara during the National Delegates Conference. They include incumbent Norbert Mao, who is also Minister for Justice and Constitutional Affairs in the ruling government. The other candidate is Michael Lulumebaiga, the Buikwe South MP, Richard Sebamala, the Bukoto Central MP, and the DP Vice President for Northern Uganda, Alia Alicia. According to the DP Constitution, whoever wins the presidency is eligible to carry the party's flag during the national general elections. And from the NUP camp, the National Unity Platform Party on Tuesday announced a leadership overhaul of its election management committee, in which it appointed Harriet Chemutai as the new chairperson. She replaces Mercy Walukamba, who has been at the party's EC helm since 2020. Ivan Sempija was appointed as deputy to Chemutai to revitalize the party and steer its electoral processes ahead of the 2026 general elections. And thousands of mourners gathered in Kololo on Tuesday to bid farewell to Rajiv Ruparelia, son to businessman Sudhir Ruparelia. Rajiv died in a car crash on Saturday morning. A motorcade snaked through the streets of Kampala, where bystanders captured the emotional moment until Rajiv's remains reached the Hindu crematorium at Lugogo. Rajiv died at the age of 35 and was eulogized as a humble and selfless man, a compassionate leader who will always be remembered for his humility, humanity, and entrepreneurial drive and love for running. Well, that's about it. Those are the highlights of the week. And give you two an opportunity to just pick any of these issues and respond to them. George, I don't want you to preempt the NUP discussion because we're going to have a lot more on that, I'm sure. So pick anything else other than that.
Well, two things. Of course, the biggest news was the world receiving the new leader of the Catholic Church. Of course, any Pope is not just a leader of Catholics, he's a global leader, and we look up to him in so many respects. So, of course, I join all the Christians and all good, loving people around the world to celebrate Pope Leo the 14th. But then more depressing news on the local scene for me was the continued torture and human rights violations of especially politically inspired torture. We know by the beginning of the week we were looking for Eddie Mutwe and two other people who were nowhere to be seen, despite a release order by the HRC which was released last week, until he was dropped at court, badly tortured. I've had a chance to talk to him, to see him. He was badly tortured. He looks like he survived an attack of wild animals. Sadly, the people who inspire that torture are people who are paid by taxpayers. Eddie was charged on a file where the DPP had said they had concluded investigations and they had committed the other co-accused to custody. So you wonder why he had to be held for over a week without being produced in court in a case for investigation. So it was clearly criminal behavior done at the highest echelons of military power and brought before a court of law for sanitization. So there were a lot of violations. Everything that happened to him, and as we speak now, one of the people associated with is still in custody, unknown custody, detention. And whereas we try to put all these legal reliefs, the issue is why would Ugandans live in a state where the military can grab someone off the street, take him somewhere to go and be mutilated, to go and be beaten, to be and be assaulted and grabbed, and then dropped in a court of law for in a bit of. And then the other incident happened still in Masaka, where 13 young men who were arrested when police blocked a football match were eventually, after 4 days in detention, brought before a court and charged with aggravated robbery. Now, for people who don't know, aggravated robbery is a capital offense which is only triable by the High Court, meaning that it's very hard to get bail. These 13 young men are accused of stealing, using violence to steal a phone. Which reminds me, the same file where Ed is charged with Achireo and Wakabi Smart, one of the co-accused wasn't even in Masakon that day. So it raises questions of why the office of the DPP, when we've been, after struggling with the military courts and trying to get some sort of reprieve, it's now behaving like the way the military prosecutors were behaving. By a stroke of a pen, you send away someone to something which doesn't hold any bit of water, but you know that it will take 3 or 4 years for this person to come before a judge, because we all know there are people in Masaka prison who were committed for trial for 5-6 years ago. So it takes at least 3 or 4 years to appear before a judge for the judge to know that there is no case against you. But you would have lost 3, 4, 5, 6 years of your life. So the intention is certainly persecution. The intention, there is no evidence. There is even nothing on the papers that the Satan signs. But by a stroke of a pen, you send away someone because you want them to be away, not to get a successful prosecution, but for purposes of keeping them off as long as possible. So it's sad, it's detestable, and any decent Ugandan should be able to condemn that kind of behavior.
Thank you, George. Henry, let me come to you now.
Yes, so thank you. I will start with the good news and the bad news at the same time. The good news being us welcoming the new Pope Leo the 14th. I think the entire Catholic family in the world has welcomed him happily. I think the bad news being the loss of my fair parent, Sudiru Pareria, as a father, I can only imagine and I can understand the pain this man is going through. Losing a son at 35 is very difficult to cope with. So I condole with the family, Mr. Studio Ruparelia, but also the family for that loss. Now, the other issue that happened in the week is those NRM village elections. Of course, you would see a party that has woken up, albeit late, to build grassroots structures and make sure that they get to be rooted from the grassroots. But as if NRM elections and violence go together, you would still look and see that many of these elections were mired by violence. But I liked also the way the president humbled himself to go back to his village and stand as one of the voters and be read. Museveni Yoweri, are you present? Yes. Then the one thing that is amusing is that the returning officer was like, okay, I don't see a phone number here. Some of these put your phone number here is missing. So that was on the humorous side quite interesting. But I think this is what has to happen, that political parties should go and try to build structures. And unfortunately, I know as an independent observer, I see that the NRM government is not ready to share this latitude with the rest of the opposition political parties. So many of them have not, been able to do what it is doing. So that is something to pick up from. And lastly, I want to pick up from what is happening. Of course, you see now that there is an intensification of political activities now that we have only, it's only 7 months away from the general election. The activities are intensifying. Whereas the NRM chooses to go to the grassroots, the FDC and DPs choose to start from top. They start from president. I think they will start from president, then they go down. I would imagine it should have been the other way around, start from bottom, build from bottom up. But it's interesting times. My only prayer is that for once, the regime and its do-wellers, but also the state machinery, the state security machinery, including RDCs, why don't you for once give us a present and allow peaceful elections, peaceful campaigns, so that we get to choose from among the candidates presented by all these parties that are taking shape, but also so that the voters who never came out to vote in 2021 can be encouraged to come and vote, because you see, the right to participate in choosing the officials to govern you is a very important right that every citizen should enjoy. Yeah, so those are the things I wanted to pick up on. Thank you.
Very well. Thank you, Henry. Let me now take this opportunity to also acknowledge the arrival and presence of my final guest for today, Engineer Ian Cheyune, member of the NRM. Is also an aspiring LC5 chairman, Wakiso District Engineer. Good morning.
Good morning.
You're most welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
How is Wakiso?
Wakiso is beautiful. I think we are stabilizing along the route of so many challenges we have been going through. But I believe that many issues are being handled much more better.
Thank you.
I'm happy to be here. I've seen that I have a very great team. I've met both of these guys on media. Physically, we are meeting today. Some people have met me, but I haven't had an opportunity to know that they are in the team which I'm meeting. But I think some of them say, we know you, but It's my first time to interact with
I know you, sir.
councils here, and it's my first time.
Okay.
But I hope we'll have a good discussion.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of this platform, really, and these kinds of spaces.
Guinean should know I'm a resident of Wakiso, so he doesn't meet out
In
his...
Chira.
He doesn't meet his...
He's from Chira. I know he's from Chira.
He doesn't
So engineer,
From Chira.
I don't know if you were listening to our discussion as you were coming in, because we were just talking about the biggest stories of the week, and I just gave your colleagues an opportunity to just pick one or two issues that they could just reflect on and share their thoughts with the rest of us.
Yeah, of course, the biggest is the loss of one of our own, a young man who was promising, working so hard, and I'm certain helping many other people. You know, when you're an employer, you are a great person amidst the challenges of a nation which is trying to grow from its level of poverty to achieve. So when I look at Rajiv, I look at him as a young man who was being tamed to learn how to help others to develop by a father who has tried his best to employ many people. Despite the challenges he's facing, he had quite a number of investments which have also come out to employ many of our Ugandans. And we believe that this young man was being tempted to understand the culture of his family, of making sure that you don't just fly every day out of the country. Instead, you must invest in that country and be able to give the people there part of your resources by giving them employment. So when we lose him and we can see the level at which his father is, we want to wonder what is the next generation going to do in that family. And like his father, when he said this is the fourth generation, that's quite great. It always shows you that these are true Ugandans and there's nothing less. So as far as I'm concerned, that was a big tragic. And secondary, it happened within my area of professionalism in the road sector. And I think we still face so many challenges with the road sector, especially when there are delays in completion of some of these projects. Because indeed, the problem could have happened anywhere. But in this case, it happened where there are barricades, which are actually very challenging barricades. I think we should change the system. Using concrete is very, very challenging. We should be using plastic or fiber because those are easier to manipulate in terms of accidents. Of course, the purpose is not actually to make vehicles hit and die there. No, the purpose is to deter you from using that road. You can use cones, you can use a strip, you can use any other reflector. Sometimes we use even lights when we are constructing a road. There are so many ways of stopping people not to use that section. But using concrete should be on bridging sections. That, okay, if you missed and you went with a fiber, even if you don't stop there, actually you will die. So the best way is to say, okay, maybe concrete can stop. But where there is a possibility of people being able to survive, don't use concrete. Secondary, the delays on these projects. I think we should understand one thing. Why should we start a project and we are not sure of its resources? Some of these delays are really hurting us, especially in the construction industry itself. The contractors face a lot of challenges, but also the country. When there are delays in completing a road, the contractors sometimes ask exorbitant interest out of their period, out of their money, which they have spent. So all that, the government should have looked at it and done this. But the accident happened. We stand together with Mr. Valeria. We know what they are going through, but you can't know the deep feelings because this is a family issue. Secondary, I think my brothers, I found them talking about it, the political rhyme. I think the paradigm is that most of the parties have found time to say we need money from our candidates to be. That's a bit challenging. I thought that some parties would say, no, we are not yet ready to ask for a lot of money. But I've discovered that every party is trying its best to get money from its candidates under the guise that they will use the same money to prepare and complete the race up to the end. The question is, who should really put up these figures? It seems the committees, the party members, some of them are not really ready for that. I saw Mr. Sebamala trying to say, you are throwing out the youth. Some of the money you are putting up is so exorbitant. But other than that, the preparations, I think, are going on. And these are some of the proofs that people are interested in voting, which is constitutional, that kind of level of constitutionalism. So I think, I don't know how deep we can go at this point, but my view is that it's good for Ugandans to continue to embrace the constitutional provision of enfranchisement, because these are some of the challenges we had, disenfranchisement, especially when people are not allowed or given opportunity to vote. But now you can see everyone is getting involved. For the NRM, it's a challenge. People don't know, but NRM prepares national elections, which are very much similar to Yabakama, which is a big challenge. And people look at it in the same way like other parties, which are still growing in terms of space. NRM's space is actually equated to the national elections. But you can imagine the level of preparation and amount of money used, it cannot be equal, because the party cannot be equal to national coffers. So I think the challenges NRM is facing, we cannot say expected, but they are as a result of its being a mass party. Okay.
Well, thank you very much. Stephen tells me it's time for us to take a break, and then when we return, we now dive into the heart of our discussion for today. What are the processes that our political parties are taking internally as we prepare for the 2026 general election? Welcome back from the break. It's 9:30 a.m. and we are still here on the KFM Views, People and News of VPN, where we are looking at internal political party processes and how they are shaping the 2026 general elections. Once again, I have with me Mr. Henry Muguzi, the Executive Director, Alliance for Campaign Finance Monitoring, George Musisi, Council George Musisi, partner, PACE Advocates, lawyer for the National Unity Platform Party, also aspiring Member of Parliament for Kira Municipality. And lastly, Engineer Ian Chiune, member of the ruling NRM Party, is also an aspiring LC5 chairman for Wakiso District. So we now delve into our discussion for this morning, gentlemen. We know that it is now a busy season. The AC is also very busy. The display exercise. First of all, how has it gone? Has any of you gone to your polling stations for the display exercise? Did you participate? Did you mobilize your people in your community? George, I'll start with you.
Thanks, Judith. Yes.
And your general observations generally regarding the process of the display.
My general observations, of course, are only in the area where I usually frequent. There have been some progress in terms of the regularity of the EC officials. They've been there, and I'm talking about certain areas of Chira, especially Chira Division where I sleep. And the fact that they also brought it online, because I tried to do the online thing, and indeed it's quite up to date. Of course, there have been some challenges. I noticed just this week alone in Chariwajah area, there were about 10 people who, when they checked, they were not on their polling stations. Actually, they didn't even ask for transfers in the last update, the update which happened earlier this year. They did ask for to be transferred, but then when the registers came out, they found that they had been taken elsewhere. They were not in the area where they've always voted from. Of course, those are some of the hiccups that we've always come to see, and the officials, of course, explain that is the reason for such an update, and we hope that when the register comes out, it will be clean and those discrepancies would have been rectified. But then the bigger issue are some of those, and last time when they were updating the register early this year, I was one of the biggest critics of the EC regarding their communication campaign. They didn't mobilize. I thought that if you're calling out new voters register, it should be everywhere. It should be everywhere, especially in places or spaces where the youth frequent, because you are trying to get the new voters, the first-time voters, 18, 19, 20, 21, who were not eligible last time. You get them in social media spaces and all. I thought it didn't do enough. This time they have tried to do a bit more. But of course, the usual issues, the officials sometimes come late, sometimes some days they are irregular, and of course not go. So a person not knowing whether they will be here or not, they will be at the polling stations. Sometimes they do. Some days they miss. But those are the usual mishaps that we've come to know from the EC. But by and large, I think it has been fairly okay.
Okay, Henry, your observation regarding the display exercise.
So for me, the Electoral Commission has done its work. The Electoral Commission is just the umpire. It's just the organizer of the elections. Those of you who understand football, like me, you know that you have a Premier League. So there is the FA. Its role is to make sure there is a league. When it comes to getting players into teams, they don't participate. The process of elections has many stakeholders, among them political parties, the civil society, the media, religious leaders, cultural leaders. When the Electoral Commission opens a platform for update of the register, you would expect all these stakeholders to participate in mobilizing the citizens. Right now, you did not see that happening during the validation. Right now, there is a display. I do not hear, there is deafening silence from political parties, from civil society, from the media, religious leaders, from all those electoral stakeholders. They have left this to the Electoral Commission to die with it. The Electoral Commission cannot be the one doing everything. So I think I want the political party leaders to double down more on mobilization. The civil society, we used to do this, you remember? From 2016-15, we would run campaigns such as Top War to mobilize. But of course now, you remember what happened when the regime decided that the source of funding for activities like those, the DGF has to cease. Is of no use. Now you are seeing if you go to check how many have gone to check the display, you will be surprised at the numbers. So the lack of interest from all stakeholders, including engineering here and here. If you asked him, you're going to campaign, you need votes. So how many of your voters have you mobilized to go? And so everybody has abandoned their role. I want to make this appeal that the responsibility to make sure we have a good election does not only rest on the shoulders of the Electoral Commission. The Electoral Commission does its work, but all of us, including you, the media. What stops, for example, the media from dedicating, this is part of your corporate social responsibility. You can say, we are running ads a day. If you're running 20, let us dedicate one ad to mobilizing the citizens to go and check the display of the voters register, check their names. So these are things we need to do. But I think you can go back to the Electoral Commission and say, as the Electoral Management Board, maybe they needed also to have organized these stakeholder engagements so that you meet them and request that each of these stakeholders, does what they can to support the Electoral Commission, because at the end of the day, the election is not for the Electoral Commission, it's for the country. All of us are beneficiaries. If we elect badly, all of us are going to suffer the consequences. So I think this is what I'm not seeing. This is the clarion call I am making to all of us to own up and make sure everybody does contribute to the success of this process.
Yes, thank you, Henry. Engineer Ian Jayune,
I think
have you mobilized your potential supporters to go and participate in checking their particulars at the display exercise?
Well, the issue of mobilizing individuals is quite complicated. Wachiso district is about 3 million plus according to the recent statistics. So how do you mobilize the 3 million even if you went for 20%? But what I can say is that there is, what I can see, people are getting slowly but for sure trusting institutions. When you look at the Electoral Commission, it's a first display. It was attended by quite a big number of people. But the second round, I think people saw their names and they trusted the institution that actually they are trying to do their best. I think this one area which I'm seeing, not only the individuals, but also these other big stakeholders like parties. Because other than talking about complacence, but I think there is also trust. Because the very people who would complain later that there was inclusion of wrong people on the voters list, they are the very people who are not actually taking interest to check whether there are those challenges in terms of institutions. Individuals are, like we have had our brother saying, that some people were not on the list, like 10 people, and they are going to be reconsidered in the next list to come out. But when you look at the party level, there hasn't been that high level of mobilization. I appreciate the civil society role in the back last elections and so on. But the challenge is everything has its positives and negatives. So if there were challenges at that time, there could be another way of doing it. I want to appreciate that some people have gone, but of course many people are bending down. I think they are trying to trust the institution. That's what I'm getting out of this. Secondary, mobilizing at individual level is very, very complicated. The best you can do is to talk to you through the media, like I'm here. When I'm here and I say, people of Wachiso, please don't forget to vote here in Cheyune 2026. Go and check on your register and be sure you are on the list. That's the best you can do. Otherwise, people are using social media. A lot of information is going through social media. I'm on many of these accounts and I can see what is going on. People are mobilizing through social media. People are mobilizing through these radios and televisions. I'm happy to know that the challenges are not as many as they were before.
Okay.
But of course, this does not mean that there are no problems. So we may need to continue to advise our people to check whenever there is opportunity.
Okay.
But I think the trust is growing every day that these institutions can do a better job.
Okay. Thank you. So let's come back to now what the parties are doing. And I'm happy we have two parties here. And Henry will be the umpire.
You're right.
Henry will be the umpire, civil society. Yeah. So, George, the last time you were here, I think we had someone from NRM as well. That was a major, a retired major. And I was asking, and you guys, we were talking about the roadmaps. And you had told us you were having discussions. You were actually working on it within the NUP camp. What has changed since then?
Of course, the beauty with the umpire you've given us is that unlike the umpire we have out there, Henry is a neutral one.
Yes.
The one we have out there is usually closer to the side of Ian. But of course, preparations are ongoing. Like I told you, we had member registration, which was launched last year, and it's something which has been ongoing. The last time I was here, like you've reminded me, I told people that we are, in the coming month, which is this one, we're going to have a reconstitution of our EMC, Election Management Committee, which is the body charged with preparing of the elections, and it's the one which now has the authority to issue the roadmap. That EAMC just this week, it was approved by the top organ of the party, the NEC, a reconstituted EMC, and it's going now to be issuing the roadmap for the other people who are aspiring for offices and different offices. Of course, along the way, we've had the issue of our grassroots structures. We had key stakeholder consultative meetings which had been planned at a regional level, which were meant to, after the bigger meeting at the regional level, supposed to trickle down to the smaller structures. The first one was held successfully in Mbale, and which was also some bit of orientation for the people who are supposed to be going at lower levels. After, like all the things we've done in the last 4 years, after one successful event, police comes out to block. So we had Mbale, we had Buganda, which were successful for the central region. Bushenyi and Gulu were blocked. Bushenyi was supposed to cater for Western, and of course they were blocked by police. That is what we have seen, and I think Henry talked about it in the preamble. That's what we've always seen. You talk about a consultative or a nationwide mobilization tour. You have 2, 3, 4 successful events, and then police comes and says, "Oh, there was an accident here. Oh, it rained on the way to Masaka, so we are stopping." So all sorts of reasons. The other issue is that there are upcoming national elections. Those are the youth elections, which are coming up soon, I think in the next month. So we've been our structure, the Kunga structures, which were launched earlier, have been trying to mobilize. I've participated in a number of those in my area, a number of meetings, trying to organize and mobilize for the youth elections, which are coming up soon, which will be for purposes of the identification of candidates, suitable candidates, and then going through the other procedures. So, apart from the usual state-inspired actions, which are deliberate, and of course I'm saying this because I think we've been at the brunt of the receiving end of the regime's brutality. Just in the last 10 days, police had to stop 2 of our events at the party headquarters. One was just a presser, another one was an organized meeting. So we've seen those. You remember when we were raided just this year, and the police called it a search, and up to now, they have not charged anyone as a result of, because if you're investigating, you are supposed to charge for the exhibits that quote unquote that they recovered. And I remember telling police that the items recovered couldn't be produced as exhibits in any court of law. Maybe in this court drama, which used to be called Court Yamaka on a local television station. And I've been absolved. 2 months later, no person has been charged. Neither have they had the courtesy of returning the things they took. Because if you're not using them to investigate anything, and which reminds me, even 4 years ago they did the same thing, and no one was charged, they didn't return. So it's we've been at the receiving end of that state-inspired criminality. But amidst all that, and the reason why we say that this vote is called a protest vote, and I see some regime operatives trying to vulgarize it by saying, no, it means that people should come out and protest. No, it actually means that despite all the hardships, despite all the hurdles, like we saw in Kawempe, where for the first time there were 2 members packed at a polling station, never mind that the law says even a gun should not come, but now there were anti-personnel carriers, armored personnel carriers, packed at a polling station in Papa supposed to vote. But the people of Kawempe came out, the few who came out, the voter turnout was less than 15%, unheard of in a by-election in Kampala. But they came out and they spoke quite loudly. So we are also trying to mobilize using all forms of efforts, because we know that the rallies, the mobilization tours, they'll be blocked. Now they've been blocking press conferences. Every other day you go to Kavu, you don't know whether today you'll be allowed to hold even an event. So those hurdles have been there, but we are saying that despite all those, we have to march on.
Thank you, George. Engineer Ian Jr., let me come to you, because I want to hear from the parties, and then I give the microphone to Henry. I know your roadmap is out. I'm actually reading here. And for you specifically, for the local government councils, I think July, August will be very, very busy months for you people. You'll be picking up nomination forms and expressing interest in July. Nominations August 5th to 9th, and then you campaign for about just 4 days, August 10th to 14th, and then polling is August 15th. How is the mobilization going on internally?
Well, internally we are trying to, first of all, look at our structures, because the biggest advantage NRM party has is grassroots structures. Because that's where we begin our mobilization, not only for local governments, but for national leaders. Everyone who is going to stand as a leader needs a structure on the ground. So right now, like you know, we have already completed the first phase. But before we went into that phase, we had also to reconstitute our electoral committee within the party. You know very well that Tango Doi has been at the helm of this committee for some time. He still stands at that level, but the challenge he has been facing has been now reinforced with Major Chinobe. I don't know whether you know Major Chinobe. He has been here for some time as a minister, and now is an outstanding ambassador formally. Now he's here to assist in the electoral commission or committee of NRM. So many other people have been replaced in different positions here and there, and others are still standing in. What we know is that now we are strong enough to handle the challenges we have been facing. Of course, like I said earlier, NRM is a mass party and it's all over the country. When you're holding any election in a NRM, it's like you're holding a national election. This is not a challenge only to us as a party, but it's also a challenge to other people, because it means that tomorrow when we finalize our elections, we'll be everywhere. As we talk now, almost every village in the country, over 70,000 villages, have already elected their structures. They have already elected their flag bearer for LC1. That's the beauty of this kind of organization. That at the time they were electing the structure at LC1, they have also elected the flag bearer as a chairman. When time comes for electing the chairpersons, we already know who is our flag bearer at that level. And of course, on 12th, we will be electing at the parish level. I'm certain that the executives at LOC1 will be responsible for this exercise. As you know, in our structure, there are times when we have to move away from the general public. Now we start going into executives settling together and elect. Like you have said, by August we will be actually deep inside into the elections. What I know is that the preparations we are going through now are good enough to prepare us for the next levels. The major issue here is to put the structure back. Either you are re-elected or new people come on board. This will go up to the SEC level, the Central Executive Committee. We'll have to appoint the chairman of the party. We'll have to appoint the vice chairman. We have more than one vice chairman. We have a vice chairman and a lady position, which is a vice chairman too. It doesn't matter whether the first one is a lady, but the second one is provided for a lady. So we can have two vice chairpersons as ladies. In this case, we have one as a lady, that is Madam Kadaga, Honorable Kadaga. She's the one in right now. Anytime, if there are other people interested, like I hear, she could compete and win it, or they can take it. Like in the same way, Hachigongo is there, and the President Museveni as the chairman of the party. So what is happening now? We are looking at both our flag bearers as well as our structure being reinforced by re-electing the same people or getting new others in position. Challenges are there, of course, like many of you have had. That if you are dealing with national elections, what else do you expect? Some villages were not ready. They did not get their structure put in place. One of the reasons is either internally they had challenges of thinking that there is only one candidate, and it happened later that another person came in. Others, they did not get their register properly organized, like our Secretary General was mentioning some time back. I know you are in media and you follow. There are some villages in some about 14 districts which had some challenges. Not all the districts had challenges, but some 2 villages in a certain district, that kind of thing. Here in Wachiso, where I intend to stand as chairman, LOC 5 2026, there are some challenges in Machinde, in Entebbe, in some places. But neither of these could stop other elections to continue. What I know is that the challenges we are facing are as a result of the numbers, are as a result of internal challenges with the register, which they are also putting together. The beauty now is that most of our people were registered in time. What you saw the president was doing in Rwachtura, in his village, he was trying to go through the same process which has been put to many other villages in the country. That when you go to an electoral process, you must find out whether all the registered people are the ones who are going to vote. If you are not part of them, then don't vote. And those registers are already in place, they are computerized, and they are much better than the former exercise books, which used to become a challenge. I don't have any confirmation about the infiltration from the opposition, but people used to say that we are infiltrated with opposition, they come and they vote for the weak candidate, and then tomorrow we're going to battle with them and they win us. This time the president and the leader of the party, together with the commission responsible for elections, they put up with the Secretary General, the Secretariat, they put up a register, which we think. But there are some people also who are saying, even the register has been infiltrated. That can be handled at the right time. We'll find out. Because yesterday I saw that there is a gentleman who has been elected, but when we looked around, on his picture he has put umbrella, which has been circulating in the media. So it's like, no, I've changed from that party now to NRM. You're saying no problem. NRM is a mass party. Even if you change on the voting day, when you are busy voting, go and vote the right person you think can take you on. That's why voting actually is not in the open. It's confidential. Why should someone who is going to vote NRM and is a known NRM go to the basin to do confidential voting? He would stand there and tick. But because voting is confidential, people can change even in the last minute. That's why, for me, I'm not worried. Councilors will tell you that Wachiso is full of no, so to say, right now. Although I used to know it as DP, but of course politics is vibrant. It's not so static. But personally, I believe that there are people who are going to vote Ian Cheyune from NUP. And they are saying, with Cheyune, that one is a different seed.
I don't want us to turn this into a campaign rally. This is a talk show, engineer. We are not campaigning here. Henry, let me come to you. I see you've been listening keenly to both of these two gentlemen. We hear one party strongly mobilizing at the grassroots, and one party, that's NUP, tells you, well, we've made several attempts to build our grassroots structures, but every time we try to do so, we see the state interfering through the police to actually block our activities. And certainly, as an observer, you get the sense that the play field is actually not leveled here. But how do we make sure that this field is leveled to ensure that all actors actually have a good fighting chance to actually field enough candidates who can actually also give them good representation?
So one thing I know about the playing field being level is that in contexts where you have a former revolutionary movement that takes over government and then after some time morphs into a political party. There can never be anything like a level playing field. So I think the opposition, my brother Musisi here will know, will just have to learn to cope with that. And of course you can see, I normally go back to study the statements, but also the beliefs, but also listen to the speeches that Mr. Museveni made before 1996. You would see a man who never ever believed in the political parties. Actually, he was convinced that the problem of Uganda has always been those political parties because, according to him, back in the day, it's parties that were propagating divisions around ethnic lines, around religious lines. They're not necessarily the movement is the better thing. I am not sure he has changed his mentality and the perception of political parties now. So if he's the man at the or sitting on top of the tree, there is no way he's going to allow the opposition political parties to mobilize, organize, and gain muscle, build muscle. But also, as citizens, we need also to condemn the acts of police for allowing itself to be used as a tool for regime survival. Because you see, if you are police and you have sworn and you've said ours is to protect and serve, and we are serving all Ugandans, why is it that every time the opposition, they can be allowed to do one or two activities, then all of a sudden there is an excuse. Oh, they've done this wrong, done this right. We do not live in heaven. Of course, you would know that everybody will do something wrong, a mistake that you can use. If you go out there looking for mistakes, you will find several on everyone. Mm-hmm. So I think for the sake of allowing democracy a chance to blossom and thrive and grow, because democracy is living, democracy has to be allowed to grow. And we have also agreed that we do not want to be bombing each other in order to change governments. And we see that our leader is in the evening of his life. We believe it or like it or not. So we need to start building. And so if you are allowing your party to build, why don't you, for the sake of Uganda, the Uganda you fought for, so that it can gain its freedom and liberties, why don't you allow other parties to grow so that you leave a legacy of a democracy that is entrenched or beginning to get entrenched? So I think these are things we would want to see. Mm. Every time I see the deployments at the NOP headquarters, it's as if there is a terrorist that has hidden there. I don't know, those images are not pleasant to look at. And why at NOP all the time? And like he speaks about, we get concerned every time the other time the General Mukwazi was like, I was there personally. We have confiscated the things. Some of the things were condoms. But you see, why did you go there? And if they were condoms, why don't you return them? So that you can be seen to be neutral. So I think the thing of the issue of a level playing field, we need to cease to be seen to be, impartial. The President Museveni, in his early days, he used to condemn the fascism that he was at show during the regimes that he overthrew. That he was saying these guys are fascists. And one of the characteristics of fascism I was checking was suppression of opposition. It is the fascists that suppress opposition. But President Museveni condemned the fascism that existed in Obote regimes. And so why don't we, for the sake of this country, this nation for which we found we shall live, why don't we allow a level playing field? Why don't we give democracy a chance by allowing political parties to build muscle? Mm-hmm. Because we know already the numbers are there. There is no telling. If you look at how things are standing, even if MUNUP puts up a strong challenge or any other political parties, there is one strong political party that is already entrenched itself, mm-hmm. and has the numbers. So why do you get to to not allow them a chance? Why do you? I don't know. So I think
but Henry,
as father of the nation.
Just very quickly, I know Stephen is signaling to me that it's time for us to go into a break. But very quickly, when you see the actions by the police to constantly block or hamper NUP from its mobilizations, do you think this is a well-orchestrated plan by the state to say contain the influence of NUP and confine it within a certain geographical area so that it does not spread its influence beyond Buganda?
Absolutely. So you can already see that the leadership in that party is trying to build something. You can see they're trying to build something. If you look at the candidates they're selecting these days, they're also moving away from candidates that were unserious prior, and they're looking for serious candidates. If you are looking at how they're constituting, we just spoke about the Electoral Commission that you have changed. Mm-hmm. The leader of it is coming from Kapchorwa.
Yes.
So you see, they're trying to build something. So it would take a blind person not to see that this party, which is already the leading opposition party, is the threat of tomorrow. So if that be the case, then police as an institution of the state should be neutral and not allow itself to be seen, because you see those actions they do, we cannot help but interpret them as being biased and partisan. Mm-hmm. So we need to see forces that are neutral and are serving the interests of Ugandans, not the interests of one party.
Thank you. Stephen tells me it's time for us to take a break. But Stephen, just give me 1 minute to say something. When we return from the break, of course, we are continuing with this discussion, but we want to talk also about issues of resource mobilization of funding for political parties, and also the key issues that will shape the elections. But also to the listeners, when we open the phone lines a little later, I want also to hear your thoughts on this particular matter. What issues do you think the various political parties or candidates must be strong on or focus on or address that you think are things that are really pressing you as a citizen, as a Ugandan generally? I think that's what I'd like to hear from you. Let's take a break now. Welcome back from the break. It's 11 minutes past 10 o'clock, and we are still here having our discussion on internal political party processes as we head to the 2026 general elections. But very briefly, let's take a look at what's happening in other parties, specifically FDC, DP, and UPC. They are not represented in this conversation this morning. In FDC, Patrick Oboya Muriat, who is the current president, he's taken leave of office, but he's tussling it out with his Secretary General, Nathan Andala Mafabi. And also the two have not had a very good relationship of late. We know the troubles that have bedeviled the Forum for Democratic Change over the years. This party has suffered two breakaways. Years ago, we saw a group moving away and forming the Alliance for National Transformation, headed by General Mugisha Muntu. Quite recently, we saw another group breaking away, of course, headed by Dr. Kizza Besigye, forming the PFF. In the Democratic Party, the DP is heading to Mbarara. 2 weeks from now, they'll be holding their National Delegates Conference. The party president, who is also Minister for Justice and Constitutional Affairs, Norbert Mao, is facing it off with Member of Parliament Lulume Baiga, MP Richard Sebamala, and the DP's Deputy President Alicia. In the Uganda People's Congress, Member of Parliament and Party President Jimmy Akena has made it clear that he will vie for the national presidency. So these are the issues that are also playing out in other parties as we focus on this context of elections. But let me come to you, George. We were talking about how NRM is really mobilizing at the grassroots and so on. And yes, we understand the challenges that NUP has been facing. But now that you've reconstituted your election management committee, do we see NUP also doing some work at the grassroots, having these internal elections at the grassroots?
Well, one of the biggest fallacies that we have, and sometimes even you neutral commentators want to fall into that trap. That's why the last time I was here, you wanted me to use the word roadmap because NRM has popularized it.
Well, you could use a different one. You could have chosen your own word and you'd tell us we're not using the word roadmap, but this is what we use.
Light map.
It's to imagine that people should do things, all parties should do things the way NRM does things. By the way, even if you interrogate that NRM mass party, it's also a fallacy. It's a mass party because it's a state party. That's the only reason why it's fused with the state.
No, but you see, George, the assumption here is that, and it's not just an assumption. We know the Electoral Commission has its roadmap.
What's the difference between the commission and NRM?
and we know all parties, because at the end of the day, you're going for a national election, from grassroots to the highest level, and therefore your activities within this period of time should move in tandem with the timelines of the EC.
Yeah, let me address what you earlier asked, and then I come to that. I was saying that first of all, the way NRM does things, it's largely because there's a fusion of the state. In fact, I had Mr. Tangodoi this week complaining that RDCs have been our biggest problems. They are always problems to us. Now they are problems to NRM because RDCs, some of them may not know that there's a difference between their office. They don't distinguish between their mandate and the NRM office. That's why when they are stopping our blockades, they're stopping them because they're doing it for the sake of NRM. Now, two, I think Henry hinted on it that there's no good faith on the part of Mr. Museveni to have a fully functioning multi-party democracy. That's why all the other parties, most of the parties that are having problems, even some of us, some of the problems we've had, partly are traceable back to that. You see, if this is has disintegrated, and some of the problems are traceable to Mr. Museveni. You see, you've talked about Sebamala running against Mao. Some of the things Sebamala is accusing Mao of is that this one took us into a marriage, and so on and so forth. So, no serious opposition party can do things in the same style because there will be apart from the infiltration and the blockades and so on and so forth. So one of the facades we have is that we should. They always say, "Why don't you have primaries?" Because they think we should have NRM style primaries. Even those NRM style primaries, they don't fit the standards of a democratic election. How can you ask people in a democracy to line up by vote a candidate publicly? How? For instance, if they say in Kawempe North that they have 200,000 members of NRM, that means in a zone they may have 20,000 voters. How do you have 20,000 people lining up in 1 hour? It's practically impossible. The last time they even ditched the last election, I don't know what they're going to do now. They're here to go for primaries. They ditched their register. A day before, their leader said, no, now let's abandon the register. They didn't follow the register. So we cannot, and even when if this was the biggest opposition party, it never used to, because they let me tell you, if decided to go to Chira to hold an NRM style primary, the local state operators will ensure that all people get NUP cards, and then they bring Engineer Ian as a NUP candidate against me when of course is NRM. So we cannot do things the way. So the mobilization and how we have tried to reach out to sometimes is a bit different. Mm-hmm. The key issue is, as long as you maintain the core principles of a democracy, that one, everyone who is eligible gets a chance to participate, everyone, the process is transparent, and everyone gets a chance, if they are aggrieved, to go through the appellate procedures, or to know the procedure prior to join, to know that, okay, this is how we are going to do this. So we don't want to be copycats of the NRM, because there are not so many good things to copy from them. But then again, an opposition party today, with the level of state infiltration and how they want to dismantle, you've seen it. Even on the hand of Mr. Museveni's son, he's always talking about how he's going to dismantle NUP. And you wonder, how does a soldier get involved in issues of a political party? Even if it's law enforcement, CDF has no business enforcing the law. It should be police. So there's a fusion of the state and the party, and looking at NUP as an enemy of the state, so to speak. And you can't do things in the same manner that you ordinarily would have done them in an ideal democracy.
Okay. But in a nutshell, though, I want to assume that what you're saying is that at the general elections, certainly NUP will field candidates at all levels.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely. And processes are geared towards that, what you are calling a roadmap.
So there's another question here. But does that give the selection exercise a better phase? Because we can't have people lining up. Of course, we also know the problems associated with the selection process. How credible is the selection process as done by NUP?
No, it's not selection, because if you say selection, it means that
or
one
election.
person sits. When you say selection, it presupposes that one person sits, and that's what selecting is. Yes, that's not how it's done. What we're saying that it's done differently through, for instance, our election management committee. They're yet to release but I'm giving you the example of how they've handled previous, the Kawempe North and the last 2021 election. They invite all people who are aspiring for a position. That's why I said that any person who is eligible, if there are 10 aspirants, they come and apply. And then after the application, they go through different procedures. One of them is the interface. And then there are also interactions with in the constituency or in the district or in the local area where you want to stand. And as a result of those processes, in the last election, the procedure we used, almost, if I'm not mistaken, all the people, at least if I remember here, Kampala metropolitan area, who I remember about 4 offhand, who came out second or third in the processes and said it would go as independent. Actually, I think all of them, indeed, it turned out that they lost the election. Then there were even those people, because there was a narrative that, NUP cards are about what. I can give an example of the constituency of Kawempe North in 2021, where everyone, the people thought that the ideal MP would have been Segirinya. We would have been not Segirinya, would have been Mr. Chidandala. That's what many people thought, because he was one of the aspirants. However, through that process, NUP found that actually the most popular person, the person who went through on the ground and the person who went through successfully the other test was Muhammad Segirinya. And many people didn't even, it didn't make sense to many of them that how can you give Muhammad Segirinya over Chidandala, because they thought this is an ideal MP. But it turned out that actually that is what the electorate, that was the result of what the electorate from our own internal process could have found. So you wonder that could have Segirinya have had more money than Chidandala, or so on and so forth. So they are not selections. There's just a different criteria. And it's not even unique to NUP. We've had other parties use whom people we call electors, others use delegates.
Yeah, so the concern here is now your EMC certainly has more power, and is that, would it reflect the interests of the electorate?
The EMC doesn't choose candidates, because for crying out loud, these people don't even know the candidates. How can 7 people know candidates from across the entire country? They use those. It's just they're just the vetting committee, which and the 50% of eligible candidates is actually how they have the interactions, the results they have received from the respective area, because they send out people, and these people they send out are not politicians. They're not even NUP staff, not at all. At least as looking at the last, I'm using the example of 2021. They didn't send out even NUP people. They're not even NUP. They're not politicians. They just got people from Makerere University, and they went out and said, okay, you go to like research to do some sort of research. Okay. So EMC cannot know each and every person from across.
So I think also the dilemma when we also, because we also hear concerns and complaints from members of the NUP. You have top-ranking members of the party who are also seeking election in some positions,
which is absolutely okay.
It is okay, and then you have members who consider themselves to be smaller. I mean, they don't carry the kind of weight or clout that these big people have. So then, where is the fairness? Would it be fair then? Because some people think now, if I'm contesting with someone senior in the party and I'm some low-hanging fruit here, that puts me at a disadvantage.
But what is the difference between a person who is contesting against the Speaker of Parliament in NRM? if you want to contest in Bukedea, for instance, for an MP, this person is a speaker. Is she going to leave being a speaker? So it's the same thing that that if people, you have high-ranking officials, but you can't deny them. There's a vice president of Uganda. She's going to contest, I'm sure, in NRM. So how do you contest against a number two? How does a teacher contest against a number two? But secondly, I've just given an example of Kawempe North in 2021. Mr. Chidandala was at the secretariat as one of our national coordinators, as organ secretary at the secretariat. So he was a top-ranking official of the party. He didn't get the card, and Segirinya, who was just a member, got the card. So it doesn't, as a result of the processes that came out from the ground. So it doesn't matter.
One last question for you, George. So if EMC does not find you fit to carry the flag for Kira, and yet in your heart you believe the people of Kira actually think you are a good candidate for them, do you think that the interests or the voices of your supporters would have been represented?
Is that a personal question or a general question?
A general question.
No, it's a personal question. I cannot, if I don't get the party card, I cannot stand because I family believe in the party ticket and I will rally. I'll be the first person.
You will not go and stand as an independent?
Absolutely not.
Good.
No, I have strong belief in NUP that I will be the first person to rally against the most befitting person. That's how multipartyism works.
Okay.
If those voices were there, I wouldn't, because I know that if you subject yourself to a party, you're supposed to subject yourself to the party's processes.
Rules and processes.
Secondly, if I was to do the reverse, that even in the other, because you love mirroring us with NRM, even in the other processes of NRM, there are many people who come out, even through that process, who come out complaining.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, even the last by-election we had in Kisoro, even in Kawempe North, we had some candidates complaining that I was left out unfairly.
Yes.
So even in the other process, there will always be people complaining because that's the nature of...
Thank you,
yes.
Judge. Let's shift the conversation now a little bit. I wanted us to talk about issue of resource mobilization, but also maybe before we get there, the key issues that should or will shape our elections. Engineer, you wanted to say something?
Yes,
we come back to...
Because I've had quite a lot. And you know, when you are in an environment of elites, you have to keep quiet, listen more.
Definitely.
So that at the end of the day, you can understand what are the challenges. You know, these are learning moments. We could be here, but there are many other parties involved into these discussions. And one of the major issues is to see where to improve. I'm certain all parties in this country are interested to know what are people talking about our function. I believe that it's a challenge when you are young. Every time you think that they don't want you to grow. But eventually you see yourself that the people you think don't want you to grow, but they are the ones who are nurturing you. So I think in Uganda, the politics is just at play, but the truth is parties were allowed to grow, and they are growing. I'm so happy to see that no bureau state headquarters on the main road, and no one stopped them.
They didn't know until it was launched.
But we've seen the last few. They can't access the structures there, but they can't access their own office.
Other than that, we all knew very well when they bought the land, and you know you don't buy land in this country without government involvement, because you are going through government institutions. So if you bought land, automatically you know. Secondly, you cannot build anything that magnitude, even if it is mere improvement, without the authority giving you the authority to do realignment and even construct. That is still government institution. So they knew, the government knew, and it is happy that they have their headquarters, and if there are any issues, they know where to go to find them. So as far as I'm concerned, I think the challenges we are facing have nothing to show that we are not allowing, or the government is not allowing parties to grow. The only challenge is that they are going through issues which are more complicated than what they expected. Of course, the issue of separation is subjective. Everyone would say, I'm suppressed. Two people have been talking since and have been not talking, and you think that you're under pressure to talk something and you cannot have enough time to reply everything. But I'm sure at one point or another, everyone in government will have some controls for other purposes, especially when you are charged with the role of taking charge of the nation. You wouldn't like anything which can destabilize other people who are not directly involved into the acts which other people are going to go through. You remember what we used to have here on Walk to Work. Everyone knows very well that some people could not continue with their merchandise along the roadside, not because the people who were championing Road to Work had instructed, but there are people who take advantage of any action. So sometimes it is important that the government does not just sit down when it has been tipped. You know, sometimes people make statements and they look very small, but in the actual sense, like you have been saying, Judith, what is this protest vote? Everyone defines it in their own way. Mm-hmm. Those who started it will define it to make it look so beautiful and nice. But when you go to the different dictionaries, you will get different interpretations. So in any case, the government must have deeper insight of what actually is happening, and where it cannot easily tell, it has to quickly employ or deploy systems which can help to control what they suspect. But what I know is that the legal minds are at play. The likes of Council Musia and others who are always behind these important parties which we embrace a lot. Because you know, NRM must embrace these parties. Because Uganda is no longer run on a single party rhyme. Because of that, other parties must continue to be there for NRM to be strong. Otherwise, if there are no parties, then it is much less than nothing. Mm-hmm. So I think the legal mind can stand up. If there are issues which they think are not done well, mm-hmm. they have all the opportunity to go to courts of law.
Engineer, just very quickly, you mentioned the protest votes.
Yes.
When you hear protest votes,
yes.
What comes to your mind and what makes you very uncomfortable by that expression?
Well, the main issue is not their interpretation, but the interpretation of the people they are telling protest vote.
How are people interpreting that?
Because the people you are talking about, you are telling protest. Mm-hmm. As soon as you say the word protest, it's like don't accept. Mm-hmm. Yes. As soon as they hear protest, if you are protesting against something, mm-hmm. it's like you are not accepting it, you don't agree with it, and therefore.
So do you think the word protest
yes.
in the protest vote
yes.
could be misinterpreted as a physical protest?
Of course. Of course. Those are also challenges for them to
but they
put
are
it
saying
right.
Protest vote.
Exactly.
As in vote. Use your vote to protest, not go and physically protest on the streets.
I agree. That is what they are saying in their mind, especially at their level. But at our level here, we who are voters, there is a way sometimes we understand our issues. It's not easy for you to get much closer. At one time when I was doing my master's, I had to deal with inter-regional planning for infrastructure development. And what was I talking about? Different districts, two districts like Wachisa and Kampala can be, but I had to define what I meant by region mm-hmm. in this case.
Okay.
You know, so sometimes it is not easy to come out. So personally, I think that they have the legal mind. If they are facing challenges, they should not just come out and say, you know, these people don't like us, they do this. They have the way through which they can actually handle their matters. Now, fusion of the state with NRM party, it could look so.
Engineer,
like anywhere else.
I don't know if we could just take a break.
Yes.
And then we come back and also give the microphone to Henry.
I want to conclude something because actually two people were talking.
Okay, please.
Personally, I want to think that there is no government all over the world that will have its party in and fail to be considered as a fusion of the two, because actually that's what it is. When you come into party, if it is a Republican, that time it's a Republican. If there are any issues to do with their economy and everything, they will put it to the party. And so that fusion is normal. But the challenge here is, do you have internal solutions to the issues which you are looking at? For me, I think the biggest problem with opposition is intolerance, internal intolerance. they should be able to understand that most of the things which they are talking about are fully about internal intolerance. You find how much each of these parties are not ready to tolerate their challenges. You see what happened in UPC. They had to go apart. You see what has happened in 12DC. They had to divide themselves, and they are soon dividing themselves again. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how far NUP is going, but I hear about DA and NUP. I don't know how far that is going. So the internal intolerance is a very big challenge for them before they think that it is NRM. Actually, it could be their side. But there are many other issues.
Which we'll still have another opportunity. Yes. But we'll take a break. And then when we return, Henry, I want you to start us off with the key issues that you think our parties should focus on, issues that will shape the coming elections after the break. Welcome back from the break. It is 10:39 a.m. and this is SilVPN. Very quickly, Henry, the issues that you think our political parties, and just for the record, our listeners, we have 26 registered political parties, yeah? You may not know the rest, many of them, you probably know just a few big names, but yes, that's what we have on the record. But for the parties that dominate and shape our electoral processes, Henry, what should be the big issues that they should be focusing on, or the issues that you think will shape the coming elections?
Thank you very much, Judith. Allow me to just take 1 minute, say something about this internal political party governance mechanism. You see, one of the biggest criticism that is going towards political parties today is the issue of internal governance. You see, whereas it is okay to use consensus as a method of identifying flag bearers, it is not okay for democracy, because democracy presupposes fair competition. So for me, all the time I applaud the NRM. You can say all you want about the lining up, but at least they have allowed the members of the party to participate in choosing those flag bearers. When you say we are doing so by consensus, you are now locking out a section of people who will feel hardly done by. Having said that, the question you asked me, what are the key issues that those political parties that you can call front runners should focus on? First and foremost, if they haven't done so, I would be surprised, but right now they should ensure that they have a sizable war chest that can finance the campaigns and the primaries that they're going through. Because you see, to run a political party, you need lots of money. So I hope they have looked for the money. I hope they have the money and they can be able to finance the campaigns going forward. The things I want to see, for example, those that are in opposition, often they come out and what is their campaign message? Agende, he's going, blah, 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 blah. I would want these political parties to rise over and above that, those cheap campaign messages. I would imagine that over the last 5 years, they have conducted research, they have done policy reflections and policy analysis, that when they come, they say, Uganda, these are the problems we have: broken roads, unemployed youth, we have corruption as a problem eating us to the bone marrow, we have, the education system that is producing half-baked children, we have, this disunity and distrust within us, we've been divided along tribal, ethnic lines. Those are the problems we have. This is what we want to do. Instead of wasting your time telling us whether he will go, he doesn't, whether you say Agenda, he doesn't, Kugenda, he will go or will stay. So I think I want them to rise over and above that. The other one is, can you demonstrate to us that at least you are all governments in waiting? You see, you cannot give what you don't have. Like I always say, and this thing I talk about repeatedly in Nigeria, if you are a lizard on Monday, from Monday to Friday, you cannot change and become a crocodile. On Saturday, you will continue to be a lizard. So you want to be crocodiles when you come to the state, because the state is a big thing, a playground for crocodiles, and then you keep behaving like lizards. So we want you to rise over and above and demonstrate to us that you have policies, you have plans that will take Uganda to the next level.
Thank you. So Stephen tells me it's time for me to now take phone calls. We already even have a caller on the line. I haven't been ready. Yes, please. Hello.
I'm very much disappointed by Engineer Ian Cheyune.
Who are you, please? May I please know your name?
Sam Kaizi, the man.
Yes. Sam, please proceed.
Like Ian Cheyune, who starts talking about the rhetoric when they are busy torturing a person, putting a handcuff to the bone, and he can't talk about it. Now, let me tell you, all those are coming because of the threat the NUP is imposing. The way they are doing their things is a winner style. They have gained the numbers. For example, in Uganda, I'm telling you, NRM cannot win a free and fair election. In Uganda, they are going to donate goods, they are going to donate what, but they cannot win. And they are a threat. That's why they're not even allowed to mobilize. They have to be ready for that. But you hear what Ian Cheyune is talking about, mass fatigue. What now? Even that gentleman who has been talking about government in waiting. In Uganda, that's not what matters. You're talking like intellectuals. The population of Uganda, over 70% is literate. They are wooed by tribal lines. Whether they think that matters.
But Sam, the question is, Sam,
the NRM is using that.
I asked a question. What are the issues that you think our parties should focus on? The issues that, as a voter, you feel should be addressed?
Let me tell you.
Yes.
In Uganda, what attracts voters is not those policies, what. Talk about the corruption, the endemic corruption. Talk about the abuse of power. Talk about the poverty. Win the masses. When you reach those top offices you organize, you all know there are no free and fair elections in Uganda. So it's just a step by step, process by process. As you weaken, the picture with it, the legacy you're going to leave. If you're torturing people, abducting people, you think how are you going to be talked about when you leave power eventually? It could even be forced from within to dispose the current leaders. You know, always it comes with the military. Someone taking advantage of the military to dispose the one. Don't expect the unfair elections to change power. Forget.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you for your thoughts. Let's have another caller. As we wait, I'll just read the phone lines to those who do not know it. We have another caller, okay? Yes. Juma, what are the issues that you think should be prioritized by political parties or our politicians as we head to the elections?
First of all, the team government should stop with the military to raid local headquarters. It is constitutionally why they have established that office for the purpose of serving the nation. Even if they are good at giving animals, they think the fear of the animal in the different things, which has indicated that all that support NRM, you have to be partisan. Being choosing a party is not a crime, yes, but don't obstruct other parties. If you know that you are strong enough, give your money at the end of giving. Is there eating his bread? You'll be told that your main character is that you are the best.
Okay. Juma, your connection is not very clear. We've picked a few things that you've said and we do appreciate you for that. Let's have another caller. Hello? Hello? Yes, the numbers to call 0393933933, 0393262933, 0393262934, 0393266933, 0701933934, 0751933900. Hello?
Hello.
Yes, please. May I know who I'm talking to?
You're speaking Ambrose.
Ambrose, yes, kindly proceed, Ambrose. I'm getting your thoughts on the issues that you think should be prioritized by our politicians or political parties as we head to the general elections.
Well, start with the NOP. NOP is a strong party now, but it is centralized. If they need to capture and they need to this country, they should know that Uganda is not just a region. They should go even to the north, go to the east, and go even to the west.
Been trying to do that, Ambrose.
You can see them, but not at the grassroots. That is what I can tell. Then, UPC. I happen to come from north. If UPC was like this some 2 years back, then they would even get back power. But now the challenge is they are also like, no, they are concentrating in the north, they have left to central, they have left to western, and they are just in a fraction of east. NRM, they are doing very well. They are everywhere. Only that they need to make sure they work with these people who block the locals from benefiting. Because the people who have entered there, because they think that is opportunity. Then, these all other political parties who think at the grassroots level, they don't need to be deep-rooted there. They start climbing the tree from up to wish them the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambrose. Yes. Yeah, okay. I think, we don't have enough time. It's just, we have just 7 minutes actually to wind up. And yet we would have loved to speak for another 1 hour. Ian? Yes.
Thank you very much. I want to thank our listeners. I think this is enough proof that there are people there who are listening to us. I think the first caller went directly to Ian and was quite disappointed. But unfortunately, the area where he was disappointed, I don't remember us discussing anything to do with abduction or torture. If we had the opportunity, you would have heard my view. I'm a person.
You can share
I'm a
it
person
still.
who believes in human rights. If there are any issues, there are many ways which this government has put in place to take charge of anything concerning human error in terms of any crime, anything. So there is no reason why individuals should be taken, tortured, put under places where they are not supposed to be. That's why at one point or another, individuals must stand up to their own cause. When I'm the chairman of a district like Wachiso, as I plan to come back, I take responsibility of my challenges which I face. So at one point or another, Uganda is for us all. If there are anything to do with an individual, should not be because of their party, not at all. Or each one of us, UPC was here in leadership. Where is it? These people are busy struggling to see that they can also survive here. So who tells you that NRM would be here until Jesus comes back? Who knows? Maybe if he came back in 100 years. But all what we are saying is that treat one another the best way possible so that when it is your turn, you can also be treated in the same way. If there are individuals who are still thinking that when we are in power, we should mistreat other people, they should reflect on what has happened to other countries within the Africa and so on. It's not as simple as that. That because you are in charge, you are in power, therefore you must misuse your power. But the happy point of it is that many Ugandans know that this is not the direction of NRM party. As a party, there could be individuals in the party who could be big enough to give a reflection of the party's position. But in this case, our position is that we must have human rights. That's why this government has continued to have Human Rights Commission functioning. And if there are any issues, like I said, this country has the judiciary which can come in. And we are lucky that on both sides or on all sides, there are legal minds which are competent enough We are lucky to have Council Musi here. I've seen him in and out of court. And I believe you are capable of solving these issues. Some of these issues cannot be directly handled by individuals in the party. No. They might need a bigger arm to restrain them from making those mistakes. Otherwise, I've also seen that some of these statements made have eventually turned out to be regretted by the very people who said them. And sometimes they are saying, no, we didn't say this, or we haven't done this. And some of these people have been taken to courts of law after people's complaints. So for me, I believe our people there who are listening to us, when we come here, we come with a positive mind. Our main aim is to try to make a better country for tomorrow. While sharing different views, different ideologies, we must also know that we are all Ugandans, and we must build a strong country where our children are going to enjoy.
Thank you very much. Henry, let me come to you.
Yeah,
so 4 minutes to go, 3 to go.
Yeah, I'll use 1.5. So for me, mine is to make a clarion call. You see, we have one nation to live in. Those of us that have lived in the diaspora for some good number of years decided to come back here because there is no place like home. So we are all Ugandans. But all the time we've been here, we have done wrong things to each other, said wrong things to each other, wronged each other. I think we need to come to a time when we reconcile. And I'm calling upon everyone in position of leadership, whether you are a family leader, a leader of a government institution, a leader of a church, leader of a cultural institution, leader of a military group, a security institution, please let us exercise leadership well knowing that we have one country called Uganda. We need to live in harmony as well as Ugandans. These things we are doing to each other are not are inconsequential.
Thank you, George.
You introduced a new topic to Henry, but you didn't give us a chance to talk about
it. Yeah, I know.
So my last minute, I'll use it to respond to what Henry said.
Yes.
One, I don't think, not just NUP, but other political parties are devoid of policy documents. In fact, if you look at the 2021 candidates, all the candidates had policy documents, which you can even get. We had policies on agriculture, on taxation, on the youth, and so on and so forth. And why I want to agree, and of course, it's not that has always been the trend. Even if this has a bigger party, always had policy statements, policy documents, which you call manifestos, and so on and so forth. And it's not even so hard. Even if lately now with technology, even AI can get you a good policy document. The issue why I want to agree to an extent with Mr. Kaizi who called, that we are grappling with basics. Andrew is talking about, you build a war chest. What will happen? You don't envisage a presidential candidate being arrested in the middle with all his entire campaign team and telling him not to campaign anymore. What is your war chest going to do to you? I remember the late Agraol one time said that he was going to bring a chopper. And I don't think it got any during campaigns. It didn't even get any rights to fly. So the issue is that Ugandans we are grappling with basics now. We are grappling with whether a person arrested should be taken to court or not, where we should not be after 30 years of the Constitution. And you're talking about a person who will say this party will not have a meeting today, a political party, a leading opposition party. So the issue
Stephen says I give you 1 more minute to talk about your concern.
Of course, there are two concerns, and that's why I said that I agree to an extent. Ms. Kaizi captured them. One of the biggest issues is corruption. Of course, corruption has all the other tentacles to service delivery, to the poverty that we're talking about. And then the other bigger issue is the issue of the rule of law, stroke accountability. The rule of law is the anchor of almost each and every other thing. Even if you're not in politics, some of the things we're talking about, like access to justice in land matters, they go back to the issue of the rule of law. So those are the two biggest concerns. And the reason why we should not look at Uganda as an ideal democracy is that even this, we're celebrating 30 years of our constitution, we are back to the basics of saying that should a political party organize or not? So before you even talk about how do you tell people who are in poverty, who are in they can't even access a meal, and tell them our policy on taxation is this and this.
Judge, thank you. I need to move to Ian. Just 1 minute to wind up. Yes.
Yeah, totally agree that there must be policy documents which each of the parties is putting in place. As you all know, our ideology is the difference now. because for us we believe in patriotism, Pan-Africanism, Democrats, and at the end,
I don't want to start another talk show. Thank you, Engineer Ian Cheyune. Thank you, Council George Musisi. Thank you.
But remember one thing.
Yes, please.
My voters are no people.
We are not turning this into a campaign rally again. Thank you very much, gentlemen. We've been talking about the internal political party processes as we head to 2026. Thank you very much for your thoughts. And for all of you who listened in and called in, we do appreciate you. My name is Judith Atim. Bye-bye. VPN returns next Saturday. Do join us then.